Welcome to the Bone Zone featuring Pax Dei, Episode 2. On this channel, I will be basically covering things that I consider interesting in Pax Dei, possibly some gameplay footage if I get into alpha, we'll see, and if there's no NDA. But basically, I'll just be posting things here that I find interesting with the development of the game. Just kind of give my opinions on them. You know, as a gamer and a game developer, I kind of have a unique perspective about things that maybe not a lot of people consider. And also, I just want to post things here that I consider interesting that maybe people don't think about normally, or that other people aren't covering. Because there's a couple of content creators that are doing an amazing job. Altari is one of them. Phoenix is another one. They've been doing an amazing job keeping me updated with things that I've missed sometimes when I can't visit Discord from day to day. And so go ahead and check them out too as well. They're doing a great job. But anyway, today, I guess so. Let me again introduce myself. I'm BunZaga. This is my avatar that I've been sporting for a while now and plan to keep on using it. So I'm a game developer for my day job and a gamer. I've been a gamer my whole life. And so, let's get into this Pax Dei stuff that I want to talk about today. First of all, I just wanted to do a little slideshow that's kind of of different images that I found on Discord that kind of remind me of combat, or it just shows off some of the different equipment and armor and gear that you can equip in Pax Dei. So I'll just have that be going in the background while I talk. So this is going to mainly be about the introduction to combat that they released this month, and I think it's super cool. It's got me really fired up. What I think was interesting is they first explained that they did not focus on combat at all at the beginning. They just focused on the world. They focused on designing and scaling the world, the foundations of the economy, which means resource gathering, crafting, housing. What does housing look like and how does that work? The foundational parts of the game they worked on first, and now that they've gotten all that out of the way, now they can focus on combat, and they can integrate combat within the world itself that's already there. And so I think that's super cool that they did that this way. They didn't create combat first and then try to cookie cutter the world around it, and they don't know anything about the economy. They don't know anything about the resources and gathering or crafting. So Pax Dei's done it the right way. They've created the world, they've created the environment, they created the sandbox. Now they're going to create combat to fit in with that environment. I think that's awesome. Let's see. And it shows that they know what they're doing. Second thing I wanted to go over was the classes. So there are no classes in Pax Dei. And this reminds me of Ultima Online, a long time ago, one of the first MMOs I ever played. There was no classes. You just had a bunch of skills. And as you used the skill, you got better in it. And you got better and better. And eventually they added a couple abilities and stuff like that, but it was very limited. I think you can only do one or two abilities for your item, the weapon that you're using. And so it was very limited in that way. But also it reminds me of Albion Online, where some of your abilities and your spells and things can be tied to your gear. And so that also reminds me of Albion Online. But I think that Pax Dei is doing it a lot more in depth. From what I read, I'm not going to just read everything that they wrote. You guys can do that on the Discord. But I'd like to just cover the things that I found interesting about it. So what I found interesting is that they say that your character's role derives from the gear you choose to wear at any given time. And with players crafting all items in the game, your individual character progression choices are also very much tied to the establishments and crafting facilities you've built with your clan and the overall game economy, which I think found fascinating. So, for example, if our clan decided to set up somewhere where there's tons of leather and tons of grass and sticks, but there's not very much metal, then our gear is going to be a lot different than someone who set up where there's a bunch of mines and where there's a bunch of rocks and where there's a bunch of different variety of resources. And so where you establish your crafting stations and where you establish your homeland is going to influence and can affect your gear that you actually use in the game. And I think that's pretty crazy, to be honest. I think that's awesome. Let's see. The other thing was they have the Holy Trinity, which I think is awesome. So they believe in the Holy Trinity, they believe in tank, healer, and deeps. And so I think that's really awesome that they're doing that. I love that about a lot of the old style games where you have your tank that all he has to focus on is gathering aggro. making sure that your healers aren't being attacked, and defending the DPS and stuff like that, where you can really specialize on what you focus on in combat, without just everybody kind of doing their own random thing, or everybody has their own heal and you're just responsible for yourself, and there's no real role to play. And so I think that that's awesome that they're sticking with the true and tried Holy Trinity. And let's see, the aggro mechanics, which I think is really cool. They're implementing aggro. So if you're healing a lot, you could pull aggro, and the monsters will attack you. But and that makes the tank needs to try to peel them off of you. And I think that's the kind of flow of combat that I'm used to and that I really appreciate. So I think that's cool. And let's see what else. They said advanced crafting options will allow you to enhance individual items with unique abilities like spells, weapons techniques, buffs and debuffs, passive or active. And so I think this is going to be super fun. I think like a lot of the theory crafters out there like me, or people that like to min-max, are going to just have a heyday with this kind of stuff, where you can take your items, you can do some kind of advanced crafting on that item, and it's going to be able to enhance your gameplay. So for example, let's say you have like a chest plate, like a plate chest plate. A tank could take that and add something to it, so that way every attack pulls aggro. Where a healer might take that same chest plate and maybe they put something on it that will reduce aggro, or maybe they'll do something on that will increase their mana regen or something like that. And so I think that being able to tailor your gear towards your playstyle is really awesome, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And let's see. So speaking of gear, so that's my next section, is gear, skills, and abilities. So let's see. Armor, jewelry, weapons could contain spells or abilities tailored for each playstyle. I basically just went over that, where a tank could have aggro sealing things, a healer could have reducing things, DPS could have damage increasing things. I think another thing a healer could do, they mentioned, was like there was this concept of like a mesmerize ring. I don't know if you're used to Dark Age of Camelot, but there's this ability called Mez, where it's basically it's kind of like a stun, only you can't hit them, because if you hit them, then they get unmezzed. And so it's like a stun where they just stand there, they can't do anything until somebody hits them, then they can. But it's usually kind of long lasting. And so the idea is that like a healer could have a ring of mesmerize. And so let's say you pull, the tank goes in and pulls too many things. Healer could see that and zap them, with that mez ability. And now they're just fighting two people instead of like 3 or 4. So I think that's really cool. It adds to the diversity of what each class can do and what they bring to the table. So I think that's awesome. Let's see. They said that technically everyone could learn everything. So like I could learn every skill in the game, and I could carry like an outfit for a tank. I could carry an outfit for a healer, and I could carry an outfit for damage. But it's just very unlikely, because you have limited inventory space, and that why are you going to have like all of these outfits in your inventory when you can't get the fat loot that you want from the mobs that you're killing and stuff like that. And they said that maybe a well coordinated team could technically somehow pull it off, but they just don't think that it's worth it, and that they think that people will eventually start to focus in on one role. And one thing I was thinking about that, though, was that there might be some kind of a thing where everybody carries like a staff of revival, or something, where it's like, and everybody in the team, has to have like a minimum amount of healing capability, so that way, like if the group gets wiped, as long as one person's left, they can use their staff of revival and get the team back up. All right, so that leads me to the next thing, which is PvE. They say that they plan to make PvE drop rare resources, and so they want everything in the game to be crafted. And they said that currently in the pre-alpha, in the friends and family, that mobs are dropping magic gear, but they don't want it to be like that. They want it to be where you gather resources, you go kill certain monsters or certain PvE NPCs or whatever, and they drop resources for you. You take those resources and you craft your magic gear. You craft your plate, you craft your leather pants or whatever, that you then can imbue with the advanced crafting system to have the stats and the abilities and spells that you want. And so I think that's pretty cool. I mean, honestly, I've been thinking of a game that I've been trying to develop for like a random dungeon generator for several years, and this is exactly the same system that I was planning to implement. So I'm really excited to see somebody do it because I haven't been able to do it yet. So I'm super excited to see this because I think it's a brilliant idea. Let's see, other fact. Okay, one thing I thought was interesting. So the more dangerous of an area it is, the more precious the loot will be. And so, like for example, if I just travel out a little bit from the safety areas, I'm not going to get that exciting of loot. But if I go into like the really dangerous parts where there's dangerous mobs and it takes like a team of people to do, then the loot will be better there. So that's kind of interesting. Which makes sense too. You want to get like your legendary and your epic items like on difficult to kill monsters, not just like bunny rabbits, right? So let's see. Other factors such as your skill may influence the loot tables, and so loot tables are basically where you have a table of items that a creature drops. And so what they're saying is that based on your skills that you have and that are high, probably bet your highest skill or few skills, and based on your and your abilities, they can influence the loot table. Meaning, like if I'm carrying a great axe and I'm doing damage, and I'm a damage dealer, carrying my great axe, carrying leather armor, studded leather armor or something, that maybe the likelihood of something dropping more towards my build will drop for me, and maybe that's my guess is what this might mean. Or it could also mean maybe like there's some kind of a luck value that's based on that. If you have a certain luck level, then instead of just dropping like a normal item, it'll bump it up to like a rare item. That. So there could be mean several different things, but they didn't want to tell us exactly how it works because they want us to be able to like, deconstruct it and find it out for ourselves, kind of like make it more interesting. Another thing is that there's open world dungeons, which again, this reminds me of Ultima Online, reminds me of Dark Age of Camelot, where there's a static place in the world, like the Harpy Caves or like Mithra's Tomb, where you go in and there could be a party there. And, that would happen sometimes. Like I'd go to farm spiders or spigrins or whatever, and there'd be a party already there. So then we'd be like, oh, there's someone here. Let's go somewhere else. Or we'd say, hey, how long are you guys going to be here? Kind of like, if they're going to be there for a while, then we'll just go somewhere else. But if they're gonna wrap it up, then we'll wait for them and then we'll camp the area. And so it kind of adds a different dynamic where a lot of games these days are all instance dungeons and instance this and instance that. Like nobody wants to share the world. They want their own version of it. And so I think this is interesting, and it also leads to interesting PvP encounters as well. Like, I remember like in Ultima Online, there's a lot of times we'll be out like provoking trolls to attack each other. And then suddenly you see somebody come on the screen with this corpore bolt flying, and everyone scatters, and it's just like it makes it more interesting. It makes it more dynamic. It makes it more like a real world. Like you're all living in this same world. You don't have all these weird instances that everybody can just go play by themselves, basically. So I think it's fun. I think it'll be cool, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So for example, like if a certain guild hoards all the hot spots or builds things. They might not be able to build things where the mobs are, but you know what I mean. If a certain guild always hoards things and is always there, and they have someone there at like every time zone or something like that, like it might lead to interesting challenges to try to work through and try to overcome. So we'll see. There's a good and bad with that. So I'm kind of curious how that will play out. Let's see. They said that when you die, the equipment remains on your body, which is another interesting choice. So if you don't get revived, like if your team gets wiped and nobody has a revive ability, you've got to truck it back to where you died and recover it. And they didn't go into detail as far as like if there's a timer or if other people can loot your stuff after a certain amount of time, or if you die again, what happens to the stuff that was on your previous corpse. Is it like Diablo 2 where like, it'll just get ported to town? I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that works out. But it is kind of an interesting choice, though, that one, that you don't lose it, you don't lose everything, but two, you have to go back and recover it. And they did say that in PvP, that your enemies or allies can take some of your loot. And they said some of your gear. And so I don't know if that means that when you die in PvP, like there's maybe a percentage or maybe one item drops or a certain number of items can drop, or if there's some kind of a roll that it takes to see for each item, like, okay, does this item drop? Does this item drop? Does this item drop? And they do some kind of a check. And so maybe some of your things stay on your body. I don't know. I don't know what they meant by that, but we'll see. They said that what I really liked what they said is that they wanted PvP to be consensual, and so I think that's super important, and I think that's great. I love the fact that I don't have to PvP if I don't want to, and so I don't need to go into the contested zones. And this kind of reminds me of RuneScape, where you can go into a certain zone if you want to PvP, but you know there's going to be other people there that want to PvP as well, and so all hell can break loose, and you can just or like the red zones in Albion Online, where it's like you have to go into the zone to PvP, but you don't need to if you don't want to. And so I think that's interesting. And they said that in those PvP zones that there'll be unique resources, and they put a clarification that unique does not mean the best. And so I appreciate that too. That there's unique resources there that you can't get anywhere else, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best resources in the game. Like you can still get the maybe better resources from PvE or from dungeons. And so I think that's cool. And they said that they also wanted to make it so that players could PvP like in the safety zones, like for example, if they wanted to do duels or something like that. I think that'd be interesting if they could either do like solo duels or like a party duel. I think that'd be kind of interesting because a lot of times, like in Dark Age Camelot, when there's roaming groups, you roam as a party, and it'd be interesting to see if there's like a way for a team-based practice. That'd be kind of cool. And let's see, I think that's about it that I got out of that. We were talking on Discord earlier, and I had mentioned they did. Oh yeah, the item durability. So I'm not a fan of that, to be honest. Just because I've been in those games where you work really hard to get like some really nice item, and it breaks, and now you're just basically fucked. And so now you have to go back and you have to gather all the resources again. You have to go gather the rarity items, the legendary or epic items. You have to find somebody to craft it for you, and it's just like this huge hassle for the player. And I don't think that the benefits of having durability that permanently breaks your item. I don't think it outweighs the funness of it or the benefits of it. And so I think that we talked about some ideas. One was that maybe the more you repair an item, the durability goes down and down, and so then eventually it does break, but you actually can use it a long time as long as you keep it repaired. Another one was that let's say you can take a broken item, and then you can use like half of the resources it took to make the item, and then you could repair it to a fully repaired item. And so these are just some ideas where you still have economy sinks. You still have someone that you have to take it to craft or to repair. You still have to spend resources on it, but you don't feel that loss of an item, that like a really nice item that you worked really hard for, and it's just gone. So I think that hopefully the devs can consider that and come up with a creative solution that fits in within the Pax Dei world, where we can spend our time and put a lot of effort and energy and thought into our builds, and not have to constantly be repairing them. I remember like in Conan Exiles, I would want to go out and do like PvE runs and go raid towns and stuff, but then it became like this micromanagement system where I had to make sure that I was bringing certain items so that way I could either repair them on the fly, or I just didn't like having to micromanage my equipment, and that if I go out on this run, by the time I get back, I'm going to have to now go back and mine a bunch of ore in order to repair the gear from like one excursion or two excursions out to PvE. And so hopefully if they do a durability system, they can have it be weighed on the side of the player versus just being a pain in the ass. So I believe that is all I've got now. And like I said, thank you for watching the Bone Zone, and this is BunZaga. And hopefully I'll have more content to throw out there later as they have more and more interesting things to talk about or to do. And I will catch you later.